Welcome to the Lara Jane Layton Show. This podcast is for you, the person who keeps putting others first. Your self-talk has held you back. You no longer need to take a second seat. Let's explore ways to overcome self-doubt. You can silence that inner bully voice and achieve your full potential. Here's your host, Lara Jane.
Hello, listener. It is your host, Lara Jane, and I am here with a new best friend, and her name is Paula. And I am so excited to talk to Paula because Paula, I have neglected my nutrition for years. And I am looking forward to hearing about how nutrition is an important part of our self-care and how we each have our own individual dietary needs. So Paula, help me be better at self-care through my nutrition.
Thank you, Laura. This is such a great opportunity. I love coming and sharing my knowledge and sharing what I've learned, especially not just in my expertise in my studies, but also in practice and working with other with men and women, but particularly with women all these years. So I have kind of a very simple way of looking at nutrition. And one of the things that came up today for me as I was just getting ready for this was I was speaking with a new mother who's nursing her baby. And you know, seems not relevant, but what she was sharing with me was how much it's a full-time job for her right now, and how important those first critical days are with caring for a new life. And with so many women that I talk to on a regular basis, it seems like we've forgotten how important nutrition is in our lives. We can see it when it's someone else. We can see it when it's a baby or a child or a spouse. Or a friend or family member. But we tend to have such a hard time looking at the importance of nutrition in our own lives, especially when we're busy, when we're overwhelmed, when we're doing a million different things. So for me, I like to simplify things and just talk about what's going on in our own nutrition in a very curious way, but not in a way that's judgmental. And really look at and take an honest look at, like, what am I doing? What are my behaviors around food? What are my preferences? What are the things that I do? And a lot of, simple ways to do that are available these days, especially with technology. You can use apps, you can use notebooks, you can use electronic notepads to really get curious and kind of find out what you're doing. And documenting for yourself and just saying, I'm going to take an honest inventory of what's happening. And not just looking at what you're putting in your mouth or eating or that kind of thing. But also looking at your behaviors. Am I running around while I'm eating? Am I, on the go? What am I doing? What's surrounding this time that's supposed to be dedicated toward nourishing myself? So that's kind of an important perspective that I like to bring to the table for the people that I work with.
I like that. And one of the things that I thought of is you were talking about this mother and her need to be there for this baby. Mm-hmm. And how we kind of give up on our own personal needs. And I agree, when your baby is 2-3 weeks old, you are up all night, you're not taking care of yourself.
Right.
But as women, we get stuck in that pattern, and we are taking care of other people all the time. And yes. It would be coming home from work and I am too tired to think of what's nutritious for my family. McDonald's will do, what is fast and easy, and I don't have to think anymore today because I'm done. And I know that was one of the things that got me out of taking care of myself was just feeling overwhelmed with everything else that's going on. How do you make that simple?
I think one of the ways to do that is to think about what we're doing for those other people in our lives, or think about what we're doing in these other areas of our lives. Because I know that your listener might be overwhelmed and very busy, but they're using skills that they have to solve problems in other areas of their lives, right? So what I would say is that if you're trying to make changes in your nutrition or trying to evaluate your nutrition and trying to figure out how do I make this work in my life consistently? How do I make these, whatever these changes are? I would say that thinking about the skills that you already have in solving problems is a really important thing to reflect back on, because nutrition is not some mystical, magical, secret knowledge kind of space. We all eat, we all have ideas about what's healthy and what's not healthy. And sometimes we're not quite sure of things, but ultimately we all know that we need food to nourish our bodies. We know that we need food to get energy. And so people tend to not want to starve themselves. It's just not a normal thing, not a normal psychological behavior. So I think that when we actually start to take from some of the skills in other areas, we can actually find solutions to these problems that we have. For example, when you think about feeding your children, a lot of times you might plan ahead in some way. It might start with your shopping list.
Right.
It might start with the type of foods that you bring home. You might bring home a lot more pre-prepped items for your kids because you know that there are certain things that they like, or there are certain things that you might not have time to prepare, but you make sure that you can prepare them for your kids. So the same, I think, is true for ourselves. And sometimes, I know a lot of times that means for many of us that we're eating differently from our family members. For whatever reason, that often is the case. But if it's not the case, again, going back to how do I plan all the way from the beginning for the lifestyle that I have? If I'm very busy, where are the places that I can actually either spend more money to have someone else to do a little bit of the preparation, or can I do a little bit of pre-prep to make sure that I have these things? So a lot of planning ahead is really what I recommend, but it doesn't have to be this big, meal prep where you spend 2 or 3 hours in the kitchen every week to like prep all your meals for the week. Nobody has to do that, So finding what works for you, being curious about what could work for you, and using your problem-solving skills that you use in your work and in your life and other areas, and taking those and pulling them over into that space and saying, I've got skills. I'm successful. I can do these things, but then applying them to this one area of your life.
It's really interesting. And thinking about it, like one of those time savers, I worked for a grocery store chain a while back. Like 30 years ago. But they came up with this amazing thing of they would deliver your groceries. And I jumped on that bandwagon. Yeah, it cost money. Yeah, it did, but I didn't buy things off the shelf, which costs money. Like, oh, maybe I could use that. I was very disciplined, and these are the things I need. And it's the only thing that came home. And plus, you don't have to pack up your kids and take them to the store and have them scream and yell the whole time, and you're not hurried. And it was such a lifesaver. And then they dropped the service because it just wasn't popular. And like 30 years later, here we are, Instacart back, and everybody Instacarts. And if you're a busy mother, do it. Absolutely. It costs a little bit of money, but it saves your time. And if you're worth $50 an hour, why go shopping for yourself? It's not costing you that much. You can do more valuable things with your time. So that is a great time saver idea, and especially with brand new babies that you don't want in the grocery stores and stuff. You can even do the pickup ones where you put them in the back of the car and all they do is just put them in your car. So absolutely. I really love these ideas, but I still am one that does the 2-3 hours every week in the kitchen. For me, it may be a meal prep day of 2 or 3 hours in the kitchen, but it's not 45 minutes every night. And so to me, it balances out. I have the time on the weekend. I don't have the time at night. And so is that balance, really looking at your priorities and coming back with, hey, this is what is important to me. And is it your nighttime with your kids or your husband or your favorite show? I don't care what it is. It's your
right.
priority that counts. And where is that lie? And yes, I agree that like my daughter and I food prepped on Sunday, and 4 hours later, I was exhausted, but I had 3 families fed for a week. And so it was worth it because all of us benefit from it. So it's just, how do you balance that? And I kind of feel like I took over this conversation because is about you and not me. But you started talking about how do you simplify it. And I go, yeah, it was Albertsons, I don't know, that had it right and then gave up on it because it just wasn't good timing.
That's right. Right.
Sometimes it just takes time for it to catch on.
You're right. And, I think these are great ideas, like very, very specific ideas. Like, obviously, if you're a woman who's listening to this and you are, thinking, how can I save time around meal prep? Like, one of the most important things that you can do is take advantage of things like Instacart or your local grocer's, pickup program or even delivery program. Ours is free at our local grocer to pick up. And it's just amazing how much time you can save. And you're right, you can save money because you're not impulse buying. You can do all the things, but you can also be planning as you're doing that grocery shopping online because you're thinking more about it when you're doing that. So there's a lot of value to that sort of process. But I also agree that, for some people, meal prepping is going to be really valuable doing that one day a week. For others, it's going to be maybe valuable to do a little bit of meal prepping one day a week and then trying to kind of interject a little bit of other meal prepping throughout the week to just keep things going. And that's kind of what I do and recommend for people who just don't want to tie themselves down for a whole afternoon on a weekend. Is just say, okay, well, you can double batch things when you cook during the week. You can make one time in the kitchen do double duty or triple duty if you do it right. So there are lots of ways to meal prep that can really be helpful. One of the things that I always suggest for my clients and students to prioritize is protein preparation, because that's typically one of the most challenging to kind of fill in the gaps for. If you don't have a protein, it's really hard to kind of just pull one out of thin air. Vegetables, we can get fresh vegetables and eat them raw. We can get frozen vegetables and steam them in the microwave or whatever. But when it comes to proteins, we certainly have more pre-cooked options available at the grocery store. But that oftentimes comes with a lot of preservatives or colors or different things that we might not appreciate. So protein preparation is probably the number one priority that I would encourage for anyone who's listening to focus on. Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. It is a good time to stop for a second and have a quick word from our sponsor. But the second part of what you said we were going to talk about today was how it's individual for each person. And when we come back, let's talk about how we can identify our individuality and make sure we're looking what's best for us. So we'll be right back.
This podcast is sponsored by Lara Jane Coaching. You know you're ready to silence your inner bully voice. Let Lara Jane support you with coaching. To schedule an introduction call, go to larajanelayton.com.
Welcome back, listener. And Paula, thank you for the quick break. And, really, I'm curious of how we determine our own specific needs. There's so many diets out there. There's this vegan diet or the keto diet and all the ones in between. And I once told somebody the only thing consistent is water and air. And then now there's that fasting one that you don't even drink water. So I don't know. How do you know what's best for you?
That's a great insight. You're right. I think that one of the things I always remind people of is that we are innately designed to eat food for survival. Like, we can't escape it. We have to eat. And that makes it very challenging when we're faced with the things that we're faced with in the modern world with, all the different diets. And so one of the things that I like to encourage people to do again, and I think this is something that you always encourage, And that is for people to really reflect on what their needs are, what's going on with them and what their needs are, and really kind of turn inwardly and say, what do I really need? And stop listening to all the outside noise. Because I think that's really where we go wrong. That's really where whether it's the voice that's saying, you should, or, or if it's the voice that's just saying, well, I'm going to like do all these great things. And it's just a little too ambitious. I think that when we evaluate, honestly, what do we really want? What are our goals? If it's to feed our family well, or if it's to feed ourselves well, or if it's to maybe, for some people, it might be to manage a health condition. Or for others, it might be to build more muscle, or for some, it would be lose weight. That sometimes is the case. And it's not, it seems to be the predominant thing that most people seem to think that they need or want based on what's being promoted, but it's not always really what they need. And so finding out for yourself, what do I really need? What's really important here? And if it's for health reasons and there's a very specific thing, then getting really clear about that thing is important. So for example, if it's your blood sugar, let's say you have, unbalanced blood sugar and you are maybe being diagnosed as pre-diabetic, then one of the things that you would want to do in that case is start thinking about, well, how can I use my diet as one of the tools to actually improve my blood sugar? And you'd want to evaluate and know what your blood sugar is first, because you want a baseline, you want to know where you're starting. And so even if it's something that's not medical related, we can get kind of a baseline. We can say, what's my goal? Where am I? And then where would I like to be? And I think it's really important to look at the context of what we're talking about when it comes to diets, because I think that's why people get so caught up in, whether it's the keto craze or, the vegan craze or whatever it is. People aren't looking at what their personal goals are a lot of times. They're really looking at like, oh, what's the latest trend? What's the latest fad? What's the thing that everybody says is working for? And the question I always ask, working for what? Because a lot of times that marketing is coming in the form of, this is working for weight loss. Every diet can work for weight loss, every diet, as long as there's enough of a calorie reduction. So successful weight loss is not some magic, and it's not some specific diet. And so I think that we really have to start thinking about, when we think about diets, we have to think about in terms of context. And every one of us really has different needs, because we all come to the place that we are looking for, a specific way of eating for ourselves. We come to that place through a series of events in our lives, through different health conditions, different predispositions toward health conditions. And sometimes we'll come in a state of really good health. Sometimes we come in a state of less than ideal. And sometimes we come in a state of bad health. And we're all starting from different points. And we have to find the diet for us that matches. And by diet, I mean the group of foods that we eat from. Not specifically like a
not
type
the restriction diet, but
right.
Am I a carnivore, or I'm carnivorous,
Correct.
or am I vegetarian? That's what we choose to consume. Not most people look at diet as what we choose to restrict.
Exactly.
And that makes it really hard. And one of the things that our media, I think, has done a really good job on is making everything food's fault. If you're fat, it's food fault. If you're not healthy, it's the food fault. And there's so many different things that contribute to our not good health, whether
Absolutely.
it be someone may have sleep apnea, which is just this huge domino effect on you're tired, so you think you need to eat, so you get more energy. And then, it just dominoes in. So the originating cause isn't always food. But when you look at somebody overweight, you automatically assume they eat too much. Not that they're on this pill that's for their health and they're going to die without it, and it causes weight gain. So we are really good. And when I say we, I want to say it's the media's problem, I think, that we so associate our weight with whether we're healthy or not. And it's only a factor. It's not the only factor.
Yeah.
And so I love what you're saying about really getting in tune with your needs and what's going on with you. And I don't know how to do that without a medical professional involved. I asked my doctor, what is the best weight loss program out there? And he said, the one you will stick with. It doesn't matter. Like you said, with the right calorie restriction, you'll lose weight. But are you doing it for your health or for weight? A year and a half ago, I was taking handfuls of medication every morning just to survive. And through diet change, I am no longer on my sugar diabetes pill. I am no longer on my heart medicine. I am no longer, all these things have gone away. But I get to be, I don't have to do this. I choose to do this, but I get to choose every day my sugar intake. Every day I get to choose my fat intake. And that by making good choices, I have become a different person. And so, yes, nutrition, as much as I wish it was thrown out the door and that we never thought it was the sole cause of everybody's issue, deep down inside, it kind of is. It is how we feed our body is how we respond. And it could be from lack of nutrients. It's not
Absolutely
just over nutrients. So I'm really loving this conversation.
Yeah.
But how do we get to the listener who has not yet been diagnosed as sugar diabetes, who has not yet been in the hospital with heart disease, who has not yet, and I'm not saying they're going to, but so many women put themselves on the back burner and forget to take care of themselves. And we do the bare minimum just to get by. And how do we where's the light switch to turn on the you button? It's like, you are important. You matter. And whatever you need to do for you. There's so many of us like Paula and I and all the other coaches I've interviewed that are here to support you in choosing yourself first. And I wish there was a light switch so we didn't have to go searching for all these different little things. Everybody had the same little thing and we just go, click, okay, you're done. You're now taking care of you.
Absolutely.
It's not that easy.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's a really good point. We can't, as coaches, as consultants, we can't make those decisions for people. And so if you're one of those people who's really been looking for that diet that's really going to work for you, and I don't mean weight loss diet, I'm talking about a way of eating that really works for you, then absolutely seek out help. Absolutely look for someone who can help you with that process, because it is a process. It's not just something that, you do overnight. But if you're someone, if you're looking for a way in, you've said, I'm going to prioritize myself, I'm ready to do this, then the first step that I would recommend taking is taking a little evaluation of yourself and saying, what do I really want to accomplish? What am I trying to do? And why do I want that? Why is so important, right? And really connecting with yourself on that. And then secondly, one of the first steps that you can do is to start making sure that you're hydrating. We talk about nuts. One of the things that hasn't changed is hydration. And it has a little bit lately because I feel like we're getting a lot more conversation around electrolytes. And I'm a big proponent of using electrolytes judiciously, So I think that that is one of the areas you can start with, just the water, with just I'm going to make sure that I'm getting adequate hydration. And it doesn't have to be a gallon of water a day. That can be a little bit much for some people. But even if you shoot for just the general goal of 8 glasses a day, you can start that out really early in the morning by right when you wake up, getting a giant glass of water. It can be 16 ounces. So, twice the amount you would normally get in a cup of water, and just drinking that first thing in the morning with a little pinch of sea salt. And that is going to rehydrate your body, get your body going, get your cells hydrated, and really start you off on a good foot. And that is something that I've done for years with my clients. And it really has been effective to help them also decide between hunger and thirst sometimes, and really start the day off in a great place of being well hydrated, and then kind of having this not being behind the curve all day long, trying to figure out how to get enough fluid in your body, So that's one place. And I think that can really be a motivational factor, is when you start to get yourself well hydrated and you're really focusing on that then you can start thinking about, okay, now what else am I going to do? What's the next step? And of course, I always start with breakfast. And I have a little program around this kind of stuff, but it really is very simple, and it can be very simple if you just take it step by step, one step at a time.
I am so into tiny adjustments, because when you try to make a full U-turn, it's everything has to change. But if you can start with, put that cup of water on your headboard or next to your bed, and that's the first thing you have in the morning. If I don't do that, coffee is the first thing I have in the morning. But if it's by my bed and it's there staring me in the face, the water is what is consumed first. And I don't know why they say, because I'm not a medical professional, but everything I have read is that water first thing in the morning is what activates your whole system to keep moving forward. And I'm going to guess that a lot of women, men, people, the first thing they drink is some kind of caffeine.
Absolutely.
Because we are so worn down and tired that we just want that jolt. But if you can just drink the water from your headboard, I keep mine covered. I mean, I don't live where there's mosquito, like a lot of insects, but I still have this phobia of a cockroach climbing in my cup.
I feel the same.
It has to be covered.
I got mine covered right here. I'm with you.
I don't know why, because I have never seen a cockroach where I live, but it's those, never mind. This is the wrong conversation.
Well, if you've lived where there are cockroaches, though, you'll always remember. You'll always think about it.
I've visited, and there's like,
Nope. I agree.
But no, I just love that, that one simple thing. If that's all you can do for the next month is adding that cup of water on your headboard and drinking it first thing in the morning before or while you take it on your way to the bathroom to pee.
That's right.
Like, who cares if you're drinking and kind of letting it in and taking it out at the same time? It works. So that's that first thing. And so if that's
Absolutely.
all we can do, that's so cool. It's a start. And then we can think of what is the next fun, easy thing to do. And if it's food prepping, like I buy my chicken frozen, and on Sunday, a whole bag goes in the pressure cooker and it's cooked, and then it's put into several different dishes. So it's the easiest way for me to get my protein ready and I feel safe with chicken.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, I can chop it up for salads. I can put it in chicken salad. I can put it in, there's just endless things you can do with chicken breasts.
Right.
Do you have cool books or anything that you recommend on some of these subjects?
I wish I had some really cool books. I have a book that I love on habits. And it's called Tiny Habits. And now I've forgotten the author's name. What's wrong with me? Do you know it?
I don't. And I was thinking it sounds so familiar, but
gosh, what is his name?
Hey, I have Amazon over here.
So Tiny Habits is like a great, and the reason that I recommend it is because it operates based on our behavior and even, I think, the neurochemistry that we kind of live by. And that is, we love dopamine hits. And so this guy's a behavior scientist and really designed this around the science of behavior and behavior change. And so I love Tiny Habits because it focuses on getting you what I call a win. And when I'm working with someone, that's what I'm focused on, is how do I get them their first win? Because that's motivating. That's encouraging. That's what we need when we're overwhelmed and we're busy and we're struggling to make changes, or we're struggling because we know we need to make changes. What we need some kind of success in an area to indicate to us that this is doable, that I can do this, right? And so I love the idea of Tiny Habits because you can apply this to any area of your life, but I find it's very helpful in the area of nutrition, behavior change around lifestyle and health.
So I found one from Fogg.
BJ Fogg. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. BJ Fogg.
We
Absolutely.
will put a link of that in our show notes. So if
Absolutely.
our listener wants to buy it, it will be there. So keep going. I interrupted.
Awesome. No, I think that the example of, the water being like the first thing, it's like what you suggested, having it at your bedside, that's a great way to do it because one, it provides the trigger because it's right there. It's something you're going to see immediately. And it's a small thing. It's something really small that you can do is just put the glass at your bedside. That's the habit. Put the full glass at your bedside. And that would be, for some people, the tiny habit would be putting a glass at your bedside and it might be empty. The second step in that tiny habit might be to actually put water in it. But I think most people would take the glass, put water in it, put it at their bedside. And then of course, having it there, you might say, the tiny habit would be, I'm going to take a sip of water before I get out of bed. Right. And that might be the tiny habit. But when you have that habit in place, once you actually say, I'm going to take that sip, then what's important to do is actually celebrate the win that you just had, because our brains recognize that. And you have to celebrate immediately. So this idea of yes, I've done that. We might give ourselves a high five, virtually. We might say, awesome, I did it, whatever it is that we tend to naturally do when we have a win, when we have a success somewhere, then those are things that are really important. And that's all included in that tiny habit formula, because he does have a little formula for that. And it's based on reinforcing the habit. Right. So I think it's great. And I think that you could use that in any area with any kind of dietary change you want to make.
The baby steps. Just
baby steps.
Start somewhere. And you may not feel a difference immediately because we are taking it slow, but you're on the path. And your summary of the tiny habits kind of reminded me of Mel Robbins' book, The High Five Habit. Have you read that?
I did. Yes. It's been a while, but I have.
Yeah, it's been a while, but it's that giving yourself a high five. And it really goes into self-celebration. Celebrate yourself, enjoy, because there is that dopamine hit. When we high five somebody, they feel great. So why not do it for yourself? And for a while after reading this book, I put a handprint on my mirror so that I would high five myself in the morning while I was brushing my teeth. So a link to the high five habit will be in our notes too.
Awesome.
But it really is finding ways for you to celebrate you. And I think that's what both of our messages are right now is celebrate the wins and celebrate making it through the crap. If you just had a shit ass day and you are down and not high five yourself for making it through. You did it. It's good. And we forget to celebrate survival because it's supposed to just be. But sometimes it's not easy. So let's do it.
Absolutely.
We are way out of time. Don't tell anybody. Oh, Paula,
It's been
this
fun.
has been amazing. Yes, Ken, you give us just that succinct last minute wisdom that we can just keep with us for the rest of the week.
Yeah. If there's anything I would suggest, it's that you take some time for yourself, just a few minutes every day, reflect on what you would like to accomplish, whether that's for your health goals or for your mental and emotional health, for your family, your job, but what you really want to do, reflecting on those things, and even writing them down. Obviously, that can be really helpful. And then celebrating at the end of the day the things that you've succeeded in, and also evaluating what you want to do better, what you'd like to do better, but having it come from you, having it originate from you, what you really want, and really tapping into that and connecting with yourself on that. I think those are the most important things when you're making any kind of change, and we're changing every day. So when you're making any kind of change in your life, whether it's nutrition, otherwise, that's what I recommend.
I love it because we women have a hard time putting ourselves first and prioritizing around ourselves. But until we can learn to put our mask on first, we cannot fully be there for somebody else. So thank you, Paula, for helping us.
Thank you.
Reground ourselves into ourselves. And listener, stay tuned for the next episode. And remember, I know I've said this already, I am not a medical professional and I am here for entertainment. And you can see the full disclosure in the show notes, along with the link to both of these books that we've talked about. So go find them. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you, Laura.
Are you tired of waking up exhausted? You are not alone. If you're looking to take your life back, let's start with the simple step of adjusting your self-talk. Stay tuned for the next episode with your host, Laura Jane. Remember to follow the show so you don't miss a next simple step that you can use to feel more confident. And please leave an honest review.